Welcome to the J Porks Podcast, coming to you straight out of Staten Island, New York. Bringing you a weekly episode with the finest music news, server problems, and whatever else is going on in Jay's life. Thank you so much for listening. Without further ado, here's Jay.
I don't get the joke. Temporary layoffs, good times, easy credit rip-off, good times, scratching and surviving, good times. None of these are good things. It's like sodomy is coming, good time. No, it's not. It's not at all. I'm not one of these guys who's blaming the world for where I'm at. I'm at where I'm at because I made bad decisions. But on top of those bad decisions, God's looping up my ass. There's not a thing I know how to do. All I know how to do is take videos at concerts. It's really all I know how to do. And write some words and do a podcast. I don't know how to do anything else. This idea that Pearl Jam are the heroes of the Seattle movement is absolute lunacy. It's insanity. And the no smoking policies kill me. No one wants to smoke in the venue, don't worry. But if the show is gonna be 3 hours long, you better stamp my fucking hand and give me and show me where the door is to go out and smoke a cigarette. I paid $60 for a seat so I can retrieve the seat when I come back in from smoking a cigarette. I always talk about weed. Never force a headline on you. I am not going to hit you. Here's what I don't want to do. I don't want to force things. I will never force a headline on you. I am not going to hit you with a weird festival in, Florida with one band I've heard of and a bunch of EDM artists on it. I'm not going to read that to you. It doesn't do you any good. It doesn't do me any good. So the lady goes, "Stop complaining. At least you're not dead." Staten Island is a racist place. Just because you may not be a racist doesn't mean you can write an article saying, why are we known as racist? That's so wrong. It shouldn't be like that. Well, everybody's a racist. Spend your day clipping coupons, go to the supermarket, buy food, and prepare it at home. I know that's a wild and crazy idea. You can't, don't you dare. Spin Magazine, you do some dumb things. But I gotta tell you, you spent 7 weeks hyping the Ryan Adams covering Taylor Swift album, and then you panned it? Are you good?
Hey yo, what is the word, people? Welcome to another action-packed edition of the J Porks Podcast. I'm J Porks, with me as always on the other side of the glass, making sure this is a well-oiled podcast machine. Every week, the ever-popular Nobody. Technical difficulties at the lab last week. I could discuss them, or I can discuss things you care about. Come to think about it, I don't think I'm going to be doing any of those things today. No, but in all seriousness, we're back. We're better than ever. We survived the snow. Actually really well. I'm actually not here to complain about 30 inches of snow. I am here to complain about news stories that happened because of it, because that's what I do. I flip through the channels, and sometimes I see a newscaster saying something stupid, and I say to myself, I should go to the internet and look that up. That's exactly what I did. Alright, so last week, before the storm, before the Hurricane Jonas, my name is Jonas, before Jonas hit the East Coast, the news media ran their usual stories. You gotta go to the supermarket, gotta fill up on bread, gotta fill up on milk, you gotta get the milk, the bread, the eggs, you gotta get all that stuff because, even though we live on the East Coast and snow always happens, for some reason, people are afraid when it happens, like it's never happened before, as if it's acid rain or something. It's snow. If you don't like snow, you can move to Arizona or something. Like when I see the Meat Puppets, when I see them on tour, and they come to New York in the winter, they're cold, and they're like, "The fuck? It's pretty cold." And I'm like, "I know." They're like, "It ain't cold in the desert." So if you don't want to be cold, I suggest you take a look at warm weather states and move there. But that's not what I'm here for. So I passed by the TV the other day. I never actually have the news on. The only time I'll see the news is when I'll pass by the television in my living room. You know, when I'm getting a soda or something, or lately a cranberry juice or a Sprite Zero, trying to experiment in ways to make my stomach not hate me. So I don't know, I think I was having a muffin or something, and I saw Kaidi Tong on the news. It was Channel 11. I don't know where it is by you, but Kaidi Tong is on the news somewhere near you. It was Pix 11 here. And she's talking about how, well, actually, wait, I pulled it up right here. New York Post actually had a post about it. Having casual sex in New York City just got easier. This weekend's forecast, 100% of swiping right. Meteorologists predict up to 12 inches of snow for New York City that'll start falling Friday night. And for the city singles, that means prime time to start slinging one-liners to their favorite dating app in hopes of finding a blizzard buddy. A blizzard buddy. Remember when that much hyped but truly disappointing winter storm Juno that shut down the city for 2 days last January? Popular dating app Hinge had a 47% spike in activity across the East Coast during the 2 days of snowfall. The average user logged on 5 times a day, 2 times more than usual, as the storm pounded cities like Boston and merely dusted New York City. The thirst was everywhere. Craigslist gained desperate postings for Juno Blizzard girlfriends. One Tinder user, whose profile went viral on Twitter, even revamped his bio to make it crystal clear that he was seeking on Juno Eve. What he was seeking on Juno Eve. Park Avenue and 61st for the blizzard. Let's party. And they asked somebody on the street. Everyone's going to flock to the dating apps this weekend. I'll definitely look and see who's on there. This is the kind of shit that pisses me off. First of all, I don't want to hear Kaidi Tong telling me about dating websites getting a boom, because Kaidi Tong is an old lady who doesn't know anything about dating websites and the boom that they may or may not have. And it's funny because when you look at other, like Pix 11 and New York Post, they did Hinge. Other websites used Tinder. Other websites used Craigslist. See, depending on which big media corporation owns the dating website and the news company, that's the dating website they would plug on said newscast that night. See, I've said it before, I'll say it again. The news on TV, the news with commercials, they're not here because they care about you. The news doesn't come on to keep you informed. It's actually quite the opposite. The news comes on to keep you docile and stupid. To keep us. I say like I'm not included. The news comes on to keep us docile and stupid and ready to consume goods. During a snowstorm, those goods might be eggs, milk, bread, and signing up for dating apps. Nobody goes on Hinge, alright? Take it from somebody who is a dating website veteran. I was on 13 at one point. I'm only on like 4 now. Hinge sucks. Nobody goes on Hinge. Furthermore, let me ask you a question. Let's just say, for argument's sake, let's just bear with me for a second. Let's just say, for argument's sake, that during a snowstorm, people log on to dating websites maybe a little more than they do when it's not snowing. How is casual sex easy when there's 28 inches of snow on the floor? You know what I'm saying? I mean, it's cool, like, maybe during the storm you might message somebody and have a long conversation with somebody on a dating website and actually get to know them and like them for the person they are. Maybe the snow prevents people from having that last minute casual sex, that 11:30 at night drunk inviting girls over to their house, or girls inviting dudes over to their, or girls inviting girls, or guys invite whatever. Maybe if there's 28 inches of snow outside, maybe it gives people a day or two to think about what they're doing, to think about the direction they're going. Maybe they don't want to do that. Maybe, because if you're on a dating website, you know that conversations ain't really, anyone's strong suit. So, like, maybe that girl you were messaging, or that dude you were messaging, maybe you get a couple more messages out of them and you get to know what kind of person they really are, instead of, the first 5 messages that they had queued up for you to get you to meet them somewhere so they can have sex with you. I mean, me personally, I'm not on the dating websites for sex. That's not what it's for. I mean, to me anyway. I know everyone who's not on dating websites say that they're for hooking up. And I know it's weird that, like, I may or may not have been on a dating website for a bunch of years, and there may or may not be the same group of girls surrounding me. What does that tell you? I know I'm still on here because my selfie game isn't really rough. It's kind of rough. My selfie game is rougher than my life. But, I mean, in reality, like, nice guys only. So why have you been on this site 3 years? So don't get it twisted. Don't get it twisted. It's not that dating website traffic is up during blizzards. It's that all internet traffic is up during a blizzard. Because people are inside. How can you even have that news story? Listen, and I'll call it. Next year, next time there's a snowstorm, this time next year, if there's a snowstorm, the news story is not going to be about the dating website boom. It's going to be, they're going to pick some random business, whether it's Trader Joe's, whether it's whatever store you're getting the salt from. Maybe they'll say Starbucks. Maybe they'll say in snowstorms, Starbucks gets more business 2 days beforehand. Amazon. I bet you there's going to be I bet you there was a rise in Amazon purchases over the winter storm, Jonas. Bet you there was. Because people are trapped in their house. There's nowhere to go. You do everything on the internet. Bet you Netflix was up. Bet you Hulu was up. Bet you there's more WWE Network subscriptions. I mean, I am not a rocket scientist by any means. I don't come on the podcast, and I'm not Neil deGrasse Tyson or whatever the fuck the guy's name is. I'm not an astrologist. I'm not that smart of a guy. I'm not smart enough to make more than $3 an hour at work. But I'm smart enough to know that when it snows, that web traffic on every website, that's Annie Quiet, that's Concert Confessions, that's jporks.com. I haven't asked Andy, but Andy's in Chicago. I'm pretty sure anybody who was affected by Winter Storm Jonas went to andydeer.com more often than they would when they weren't affected by Winter Storm Jonas. It snows. You want to curl up with a cup of coffee? Here's some Tyler Cale. Here's some Jesse. Here's some Jesse Unplugged. Here's some Andy Deer. Here's some Jay Porks. I'm pretty sure you wanted to do that. And I'm pretty sure if Tyler Cale ever listens to this podcast, he'll say to himself, what the fuck is snow? Because he's from California, and I am jelly of you, motherfucker. I'm jelly like Smuckers. All you people enjoying the warm weather. Truth be told, it wasn't even that bad. Like, we're 4 or 5 days out already. When I'm recording this a little early. We're 4 or 5 days out, and it kind of got cleared up. I got to work. I got on the bus. It was all gravy. It's all gravy like turkey. So having casual sex in New York City just got easier, except for the fact that it's not easy at all. If you're going through dating websites. See, I'm a weird guy. I signed up for dating websites to, like, talk and meet people. How dare I? Oh, what's this? Wait a second. No. What does this sentence say? Cablefax.com has that Time Warner Cable reported in New York City internet usage was up 34% on Saturday. Saturday was when the travel ban, because they banned cars from being on the road. So Time Warner Cable, which basically has a monopoly over the cable system in New York City, they had a 34% increase in internet usage. Across the board. So all website traffic is going up. Every single site. I don't understand why the news is going to make a story out of this. Well, I know why, because they had you. They had you waiting for the weather, and you had no choice but to listen to Kaidi Tong pretend that she knows about a dating website. Hinge is the crappiest site ever. Hinge is like the dating website you would sign up for if you never ever want to have fun. Hinge seems like the kind of dating website where I meet a girl, I go have Starbucks coffee with her, and we talk about how she's a vegan that does CrossFit and goes to spin class on Wednesdays. And not spin class with Tyler and Andy, but spin class like it's at the gym. I never knew what it was. I was always like, spin class. Wow, that sounds so like difficult. That's probably killing you. It's riding bicycles. All it is riding bicycles. They call that spin class. I call it riding a bike that's mounted on the floor. I call it an exercise bike. Who knew that in 1991, when I had an exercise bike in my dining room, that I was doing I was having my own spin class. I was having it before Tyler and Andy had the show about it. Man. All right. I said all right. All right. I unpaused it and the thing wasn't moving, so I was like, I said all right. Anyway. All right, so what I'm going to do is I'm going to do something I kind of don't want to do, but I kind of do want to do. So I'm going to share something with you real quick before we get to the break and I get back on other things like music. Okay, as you know, it's an election year. As you know, I hate myself for it. I don't hate myself, I hate all of you. But, I'm doing the Iowa caucus on Monday or something. So what I'm going to do is, what I found on the internet is Bernie Sanders. Somebody has compiled 30 years of Bernie Sanders speeches into a 9-minute video. And they took pieces of each speech and they put it together, and it's funny because it's like he's been making the same speech for 30 years. And it's like, this is change that the country needs, but it's not change that the country's going to get on board with. Now, I mean, I know you as well as me that I may not have an audience that is exactly, in the minds of being political. I'm not. And you know what? I really don't need to be around people that are all politics all the time. But when you see a fear-mongering racist on TV all the time, getting news, getting publicity, leading in polls, it's just scary. So then you start to look at the other side. You got Hillary and you got Bernie. Now, I'm a fan of both. I'm a fan of anyone who's not Donald Trump, to be honest with you. I'll just call a spade a spade. I'm a fan of anybody whose first name isn't Donald and last name isn't Trump. You can elect a cardboard box to be the president, and I'm pretty sure I'd be less offended. Could we have an Obama third term? Hashtag Obama third term. Anyway, no, but seriously, since would want to vote on the Democratic, since I'd be voting on the Democratic side, it's looking like Hillary or Bernie. Now, I wish they would get together, but they're not gonna. But I like Bernie. Bernie is what the low-class people in this country need. And it's what the upper-class people in this country have lacked over the past 50 to 100 years, and that's accountability for the things that they do. There's no reason that 1% of the world should control the world's population. There's no reason that should be the case. And I know that since I live on Staten Island, people aren't feeling the burnout here because people don't want to part with an extra buck, because people don't care about the less fortunate. People that have money don't give a fuck about the less fortunate. They think that those people should get jobs and be more fortunate. They don't realize that there are certain conditions, there are certain situations that people have to deal with. Everybody's got a different situation, different home life, different upbringing that may have affected the way they could go about and go out into the world and tackle their future. But conservatives don't want to hear that. So anyway, I got this speech in, and I'm doing it because I know Bernie would love it. Feel the burn. Hashtag feel the burn. So I'm going to place it right here. 9 minutes of Bernie Sanders. Now, I'll put the video on the notes. So you can see it's like 87 is the first couple of paragraphs. Then it's like 88, and it keeps going and keeps changing. The years keep changing, but the speech remains the same. See, like most politics are politicians who pander and stuff. Now, I'm not saying Bernie Sanders has never pandered before. I'm just saying that he's had the same message for the last 30 years, and there's a reason why things aren't changing, because the powers that be in this country don't want things to change in that direction. They don't want poor people to have a voice. They don't care about poor people. They think that they give us welfare and that's enough. I say us like I'm on welfare. If I was only that lucky. If I was only lucky enough to be on welfare. And somebody, the other day I was at work and the girl I was working with said, because I used to work with her at Panini Grill, and she said something to me like, so, what do you think about the president? I'm just like, what do you mean, what do I think? It's like, you think Hillary? I'm like, I don't think Hillary is going to win because women like you think that she's going to have her period all over the country and ruin it. That's what I think. Personally, and and Bernie Sanders isn't going to win because he's Jewish. Now, you might scoff. You might say, Jay, come on. Not everything's about this. Is it? Is it not? There's no way in this Christian America that we elect a Jewish president. That will never happen. America, Jews are like, the way racism is for black people. You know how, white people are openly racist and they don't care? With Jewish people, when there's no Jewish people around, people are openly ethnicity hating on Jews, and they don't give a fuck. And don't you dare tell me it's not true. So, in hopes that Bernie Sanders can call Hillary Clinton and become the vice president for their party, I'll play this for you. You get a little taste of my man Bernie, Feel the Burn. And we'll get music headlines when we come back after this.
We live in a world today where there are several 100 million people starving to death
They're starving to death right now. All over this country today, there is a certain demoralization. And the demoralization is that some people believe that what goes on in the White House and what goes on in the Congress reflects the will of the American people. And by assembling here today as the Rainbow Coalition and its other groups from 46 states in America, what we are saying very loud and clear is that Ronald Reagan and his billionaire friends do not represent America, but we do. In some of the largest cities in America, 50% of the kids are not graduating high school. The cost of college education in this country is zooming up, so you have to be a wealthy person to send your kid to college. There was once a dream that my parents had and many people's parents had, that if you work hard and go to school, you can get a college education.
But what people like this gentleman do not know is, for example, that in Scandinavia, in Sweden, you've had socialist governments for decades, that in fact that country is probably in most respects more democratic than the United States. They have 80 or 90% of the people voting. They have strong labor unions. They have a more open media. They have a healthcare system guaranteeing healthcare to all of the people. Not to say that that's a utopia.
But at a time when the wealthiest people of this country have seen a tremendous increase in their income, while at the same time the standard of living of working people and poor people has declined, I will be damned if I will vote for a proposal which will stick it to the middle class and the working people. And Mr. Speaker, I've got a problem. I've got a problem with a president and a Congress which allows 5 million children to go hungry, 2 million people to sleep out on the streets, cities to become breeding grounds for drugs and violence. And they say, we're getting tough on crime. If you want to get tough on crime, let's deal with the causes of crime. Let's demand that every man, woman, and child in this country have a decent opportunity and a decent standard of living. Let's not keep putting poor people into jail and disproportionately punishing blacks. While our children go hungry and sleep out on the streets, lack adequate health care or educational opportunity, the wealthiest people in this country have grown far richer while their tax burden has declined. We have an approach to campaign financing which, to a very large degree, allows wealthy people and major corporations to buy and sell politicians. The rich get richer, the poor get poorer, and ordinary Americans are shut out of the political system. The United States today is one of 2 nations in the industrialized world that does not have a national health care system. That has to do with campaign finance reform. The United States today, the chief executive officers are seeing their salaries soar, and the gap between the rich and the poor grows wider. 10 million Americans are unemployed. That has to do with campaign finance reform. The system, by and large, is owned and controlled by big money interests, and the President of the United States and much of the Congress does the work of protecting the big corporations and the wealthy people who control the economic and political life of this nation. This country, this great country, this democracy, is evolving into an oligarchy. And an oligarchy is a country in which a few people have tremendous wealth and tremendous power and exercise that wealth and that power over all. We have seen a situation where we give huge tax breaks to the wealthy, and you have 2 million people sleeping out on the street. Billions of dollars into all kinds of obsolete weapon systems, and you have 5 million children who are hungry. Let us give hope to people in America today who have lost hope. Let us provide jobs for the jobless, housing for the homeless, food for the hungry. Workers in the United States today are working longer hours, significantly longer hours, taking less vacation time than they used to take. And is there any wonder why so many millions of Americans feel stressed out? They need to work longer hours, they need to work overtime in order to compensate for the real decline in their wages. Let's talk about welfare for the rich and the powerful. Now, we start off from a proposition that the wealthiest 1% of the population in this country owns more wealth than the bottom 90%. When we talk about the growth of the economy, what we should ask ourselves is who is gaining that income. And what is clearly going on is the lion's share, the overwhelming amount of the growth in income is going to the very, very wealthiest people, while the vast majority of the people are seeing a decline in their real incomes. I find it ironic that it is the taxpayers of this country who are going to have to bail out banks that have made billions and billions of dollars investing in Asia. Is it morally right that CEOs of large corporations now make over 500 times what their workers make and seem to make more money to the degree that they lay off American workers? Walmart has replaced General Motors as the major employer in America, paying people starvation wages rather than living wages. We can fight terrorism, protect the American people without undermining the basic constitutional rights which make us a free country. They understand that our trade policies are failing when they note that our trade deficit is huge and growing larger every single year. And it seems to me, Madam President, that before we go forward again in pursuit of a failing trade agenda, we might want to sit back, take a moratorium, understand why our trade policies are failing, and then put together trade agreements that work for the working people and the middle class of this country rather than just the CEOs of large multinational corporations. The wealthiest 1/10 of 1%, 1/10 of 1%, 300,000 men, women, and children now earn more income than do the bottom 150 million Americans. No matter how many children live in poverty, no matter how high the unemployment numbers are, they want more and more and more. And I say enough is enough. And you want to know why the American people are cynical about what goes on in Washington? You want to know why the Congress of the United States has an extremely low level of support or favorability? It is because the American people know they are getting ripped off. You got millions of people today who are working longer hours and their income is going down. Their wages are going down. This grotesque level of inequality is immoral. It is bad economics. It is unsustainable. This type of rigged economy is not what America is supposed to be about. This has got to change. And as your president, together, we are going to change it. When we stand together, there is nothing that we cannot accomplish. And I pledge to you that every day I will fight for the public interest, not the corporate interest. I will not abandon any segment of American society, whether you're gay or black or Latino, poor or working class, just because it is politically expedient at a given time. So let us go forward together, and let us tell the Republicans that their reactionary agenda may work for the billionaires, but not for ordinary Americans, and we are going to defeat them. Thank you all very much.
Hey everybody, it's Andy from the Andy Dare Show, just thanking you for checking out the Jay Porks podcast. If you want to support Jay and his show, it's easy and it's free. All you got to do is go to Facebook, search Jay Porks, and push the like button. Also on Twitter at Jay Porks. Also Instagram at Jay Porks. There's a running theme here. It's Jay Porks all the time. And the HQ is jporks.com. If you want to support the Dare Podcast Network, all you got to do is go to andydare.com and subscribe via iTunes. You'll get the Andy Dare Show, the Jay Porks Experience, the Tyler Kale Show, and Spin Class for absolutely $0. We want to thank everybody who's helped spread the word here at Dare Network over 2 years that we've been doing it. And back to the Jay Porks podcast.
And we are back. Feel the burn. Okay, before I get into recent music stuff, I want to get into some non-recent music stuff. The good folks at dangerousminds.net have published an article titled "The Drugs That Fueled the First 5 Meat Puppets LPs." Can I just say that I love that this is a band that I'm associated with? You know what I'm saying? I'm not associated with any pussyfoot bands. Meat Puppets... Well, first, let me double check something. Okay. Matthew Smith Larriman, the author of The Meat Puppets and the lyrics of Kurt Kirkwood from The Meat Puppets 2 to No Joke, has posted a number of his in-depth interviews with the band on his blog, Perspective. Toward the end of one such conversation, our main puppet Kurt Kirkwood, the singer and guitarist, breaks down which drugs the band used while recording each of their first 5 albums for SST. Down here we got Kurt Kirkwood quoted. The first album was like, quote, "Let's do it on acid," unquote. We thought that our heroes did, and I always thought, wow, the Grateful Dead and Jimi Hendrix were tripping. And so we did in the studio. Meat Puppets 1 sounds like that because we really are on drugs. Meat Puppets 2, we had MDMA. Lots of it. Really good MDMA. We just had a ball with the stuff for about 4 or 5 days and recorded the record. But nobody's gonna do that again after that. It's like that record depends on this. This record depends on that. Well, it kind of does. Up on the Sun is just a big pot and beer album. Quote, now we're gonna go smoke pot and drink beer. Then we go do Mirage and Huevos and snort cocaine. And then it's like, for the Meat Puppets fans who responded to the above paragraph with TLDR, which is too long, didn't read. Meat Puppets 1, acid. Meat Puppets 2, MDMA. It says MDA, but it's MDMA. It's the pure form of ecstasy. It's actually making a comeback. The kids call it Molly these days. Up on the Sun, pot and beer. Mirage and Huevos, cocaine. You know, actually, it makes sense because Mirage and Huevos came out the same year. So it would make sense that cocaine was the drug that fueled that because, you know, we're going to just speed things up here. And this one's good. Here's a story from Greg Turkington's liner notes to the Ryko disc reissue of Meat Puppets that should help you remember which drug goes with that album. Kurt once told me a story of a night he spent in the Arizona desert under the influence of hallucinogens. Wandering around in a patch of barren desert far from town, he came upon what appeared to be a beautiful Persian rug laid out in the sand. Under the influence, as he was, he couldn't help but lie down on the rug and attempt to commune with its cascading patterns and beautiful colors. He eventually wrapped himself up in this gorgeous rug and drifted off into sleep. Upon awakening in the heat of the desert morning, he was instantly sobered up by the realization that the rug was in fact an extremely dead coyote, covered in maggots and stinking like the bowels of hell from days spent rotting in the sun. The influence of incidents like these, and there were others, definitely gave the Meat Puppets their particular and peculiar edge. What? I mean, listen, I've seen some shit, you know? I mean, listen, I've never taken acid, but I've taken mushrooms. I've seen some things. Not recently, like in my teenage years. I thought the stucco on the ceiling was falling down on me, but I don't think I would see a dead coyote and think that it is a Persian rug that I need to lay down and commune with. Commune with? What? So, to say that the band I work for is out there is an understatement, and I fucking love it. Because I'm out there, and I can't be out there alone. Out in Spaceland all by myself. So, check it out. The Drugs That Fueled the Meat Puppets' first 5 LPs. You should listen to them. They're all on Spotify. I think the only thing not on Spotify is Forbidden Places. While we're on the Meat Puppets, I'll mention it now. People are asking me what happened to the Chris Kirkwood podcast. And I'm going to tell you that you know as much as I do about the Chris Kirkwood podcast. So, as you know, Chris Kirkwood and Bill Cody were doing a weekly podcast. They would go to a studio in LA, and they would have guests in. Some guests include Fred Armisen. They had Frank Zappa's son. They had Bob Forrest. They had Wayne Kramer. They had Mike Watt. They had... not Flea. Was it Flea? I'm not even sure. Anyway, if you go to the Chris Kirkwood podcast at on Facebook, check it out. They have 25 episodes. They're all archived on SoundCloud, so you can check it out. So that came to an end, and I'm just gonna read. I'm gonna read what it says on Facebook because I don't. I don't do social media for the Chris Kirkwood podcast. I do social media for the Meat Puppets. I don't know anything that's going on, but it says, so as they say, all good things must come to an end, and unfortunately it's time to say goodbye from the Chris Kirkwood podcast. I'll be doing some new things. Chris will be out with the band. We love all of you. Farewell. So, Chris will be out on the road. I don't know that, but I don't know that. I know that they'll eventually be out on the road, but I have not been privy to any information. So if you were thinking of sending me a text or sending me an email or a tweet asking me about the Chris Kirkwood podcast, I wish it was continuing. I thought it was awesome. And maybe when, maybe in the future, maybe they reconvene for another couple episodes. You see, I don't think Chris Kirkwood has an awesome podcast, but I think that the Meat Puppets are so popular. Among people who listen to podcasts, they're not for young people. They are for young people, but a lot of older people are fans of the Meat Puppets. Therefore, a lot of older people like to listen to podcasts because they like to sit down with a cup of coffee and listen to stories. That's what people like to do. They're not going to go on YouTube and watch the latest video podcast. So, I think that there's always a chance for in the future for Chris and Bill to get together and do a couple of one-off shows just out of nowhere. Me personally, I was looking forward. I was gonna have Chris on my podcast because I got the new microphone now. Now I can have people on. I keep saying that, but I don't have anybody on. I know you're wondering what's up with that. I promise we're gonna get good things. Good things come to those who wait. Well, except for me, because I'm a waiter, so I wait all day and nothing happens. So there's that. All right, let's get to the music headlines. Headlines every week. They be powered by Annie Quiet. Couple of tours happening. Brand New and Modest Mouse are touring. They're gonna tour stadiums, it looks like. Madison Square Garden. First Merit Bank Pavilion. They don't have the Rosemont Horizon anymore in Chicago. Anyway, so Modest Mouse will be on the road from, well, let's go to America. They'll be in Louisiana April 28th with Brand New, and they'll be on the road. No, not with Brand New. I'm sorry. The dates with Brand New begin June 28th in Utah, and they conclude July 31st in Portland, Oregon. Be hitting California, be hitting Texas, Oklahoma. They'll be hitting New York, which is New York City. So yeah, a bunch of places. Red Rocks. Man, I want to go back to Red Rocks. I can't believe I was on stage at Red Rocks. Anyway, also, Sting and Peter Gabriel are touring. A Rock, Paper, Scissors tour. I got a text from my good friend of mine, Amanda. She asked me if I wanted to go to this. I threw up in my mouth a little bit, but I'll go. Right now, Right now, for the summer, I'm looking at two things. Now, there was Weezer and Panic at the Disco. I talked about this last week, or 2 weeks ago, but on the previous podcast, I talked about this. There's Weezer touring. Problem is they're touring with Panic at the Disco. A non-problem is that Pam's never seen Weezer, so it gives me more, and Pam's going to be the ride. So, and, you know, the buddy I go with, and the somebody I have to talk to when I'm at this fucking show, and I don't have to be by myself. And the way I get there. And I haven't seen Pam in a while. But Pam's never seen Weezer, and I feel like I've seen Weezer, like, too many times, so I feel like I need to take her to see Weezer. And fuck Panic at the Disco, I don't need to see them, I'll just get seats and I'll get lawn and I'll sneak down, I don't fucking care. PNC, thank you for your lackadaisical security policy and letting me sneak down. But it's either that, well, I could probably do both. It's either that or I wanted to go to Heart, Cheap Trick, and Joan Jett. Again, last podcast, I went over those tour dates. The Rock Hall 3 for All, that tour looks amazing. And I believe that is also coming to PNC Bank Arts Center. So, there's a couple of things coming to the PNC Bank Arts Center this summer. I tell you about that because those are shows I'll be getting to. People probably wonder, why does Jay keep telling us about shows that are happening around him? Why doesn't he tell us about shows that are happening around us? Because I don't know where you are. If you want to email me, jporkspodcast@gmail.com, and ask me what show you should go to, tell me the area you're in. I'll look up your concert calendar, and I'll see where you should go. And you can not listen to me. And, it pains me to say it, but since I consider myself news, I'm just saying this one time. I'm using one sentence of the podcast on it, and that's going to be it. I don't want to say anything else about it again. I'm not putting a link in the notes because I don't want that shit infiltrating my life. But Pearl Jam is touring. And that's it. You want to find out? Go Google it. But the bane of my existence is back again to just fucking stick that fork in me. Just to fucking pour salt in my wounds as if my week wasn't going rough enough. Anyway, the headlines continue to be powered by Annie Quiet. And on Annie Quiet, we have a div. Is-R skids home after a long, rough ride. There's a review of the new div record. I'm not going to give you the score because I'm not going to give you the score, which is out of 10, because then that gives you no reason to read it. The idea is to get you to read things, guys. Massive Attack. You guys know Massive Attack? They do the house theme song. Boom, 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 boom. You guys know that fucking song. Anyway, Massive Attack released their new EP, Ritual Spirit, today. Not today, but on January 28th. And we cannot recommend it enough. It may only be 4 tracks, and only one features 3D, though it also features Tricky, back for the first time since 1994. But Robert Del Naja, Juan Dickinson, I'm saying Juan even though it's Ewan Dickinson, and the collection of collaborators they've assembled have managed to revitalize the massively influential trip-hop pioneer's classic sound with new electricity even more effectively than much of 2000's Heligoland, Jesus. Bands release albums under names I could pronounce. I sound stupid. There'll be another EP out this spring, written and co-produced by co-founder Daddy G, and a then full-length album this year. In the meantime, Ritual Spirit has us very excited for the return of Massive Attack in 2016. You can stream it on Spotify, buy it on iTunes, because she's not a Nazi like Adele. It doesn't say that it doesn't say the Adele part in the article, but I made it up. Okay. So Massive Attack's back with a new EP. Hopefully, Massive Attack can convince Fox to bring back House. Because, actually, no, you can't really go anywhere after that show ended. They should have lost episodes of House. It's a great show. Pine Grove. Pine Grove is a new thing. You should check it out. Cadmium. They're a band from New Jersey. Alright, well, this is written by Zachary Gelfand, so we'll just, I'll read it here. I was lucky enough to book a band from New Jersey called Pine Grove at my house in Michigan back in October as part of one of their first headlined U.S. tours. That sounds pretty cool, actually. I never heard of Pine Grove when I booked them, but as the show got closer and I listened more and more to their material, I realized that this do-it-yourself indie folk punk band set to perform in my basement could very well take over the world within the next year. And since the band signed to Run for Cover in late 2015, their rise has already begun. Pine Grove is set to release their first proper LP, Cardinal, on February 12th. The latest beautiful single, Cadmium, was just premiered over at the Fader. You can stream a couple more tracks from Cardinal below. And what we have is there is tracks you can listen to Pine Grove right now over at antiquiet.com. The Chemical Brothers and Beck unveil surreal new video for Wide Open. Nice little combo that no one could really get mad about here. Squirrel on the write-up. Apparently, the Chemical Brothers released a new album last year called Born in the Echoes. There were 3 singles, and the fact that one features Annie Clark is the main reason why I'm going to pick it up after I post this video, after I post this video that was just released. For the album's closing track, Wide Open, featuring Beck, the surreal clip was directed by an artist called Dom and Nick, spelled Dom, the ampersand sign, and N-I-C. And I hope it's not too backhanded to say that it's cooler than the song. Got that. It's up on Vimeo and available on Antiquiet, of course. Amarth. They debut First Kill from their new album, Jomsviking. They announced 2016 North American tour dates. This is written by AQ correspondent and Concert Confessions fearless leader, Reverend Justino. On March 25th, the Kings of Swedish Viking metal, Amarth, will return with their 10th full-length album. The release will be called Jomsviking, and it is the first concept album in the band's lengthy career. The album will feature 11 tracks, as well as a guest appearance from legendary German hard rock vocalist Doro Pesch. Frontman Jonah Hegg has shared the following about the tragic tale of love and revenge. And you could read it over at antiquiet.com. Band has released a full video for the lead single, First Kill, which you can watch, like I said, at antiquiet.com. And they have a tour that's going through April 7th, starting off at the House of Blues in San Diego. And it is going to go all the way to May 21st, back in Los Angeles at the Wiltern. So they're actually going full circle. San Diego, Arizona, Texas, Nolans, Georgia, Florida, North Carolina, New York. Yeah, then they go back and they go around. That's not a bad route there for a tour. Just that Denver to Omaha trek is tough. That's why there's a day in between. So there's that. If you're down with Viking death metal, check it out. I mean, I don't see why you shouldn't. But the big news this week, well, big news. Big to me, you might not care. But Iggy Pop and Josh Homme secretly released an album. Well, did they release it or did they record it? written by Squirrel here. Oh, that Josh Homme with all of his secret projects. The Queens of the Stone Age frontman apparently got together with Iggy Pop last January and started co-writing and recording between Joshua Tree and Pink Duck. They now have an album ready to go called Post-Pop Depression, featuring Dean Fertita of Queens of the Stone Age and the Dead Weather, Arctic Monkeys drummer Matt Helders, and guests including at least Troy Van Leeuwen and Matt Sweeney. Troy Van Leeuwen is from Toadies. The album is set for release this March, and the band will also play some shows, though Homme says they're being very selective with the venues, carefully picking only the coolest places. And I quote, "There won't be hardly any shows, and they won't be in big places, and you won't be able to get a ticket," he told New York Times in an in-depth coming out piece published this morning. So almost everyone won't see it. It will be like trying to catch smoke in your hands, and that makes it even better. It will be special, and it will be over in the blink of an eye. Queens of the Stone Age just announced via Facebook that the group will make their debut performance on The Late Show with Stephen Colbert. That's at 10:35 Central, 11:35 on the East Coast. And then we go to this in a separate article, which was posted later that day. We have that performance from Colbert. Well, we didn't have to wait long to be formally introduced to Iggy Pop's new collaboration with Josh Homme. The band, Iggy, Josh, Dean Fertita, and Matt Helders of the Arctic Monkeys, along with guests Troy Van Leeuwen and Matt Sweeney, will perform the lead single from Post-Pop Depression on The Late Show with Stephen Colbert last night. So here it is, the surprisingly Bowie-esque Gardenia. And below, we have the studio version. So studio version, the version of them doing it late on Colbert, the interview with Iggy Pop and Josh Homme sitting down talking to Colbert. All of that is available at AnnieQuiet.com. AnnieQuiet.com is your source for quality. Okay. So there's that in terms of music. So far, I mean, do you really want to talk about Kanye and Wiz Khalifa? I mean, all right, I'll give you a quick rundown. Wiz Khalifa was apparently on a track with Kanye West. He was in the studio. Wiz Khalifa left the studio, and Kanye West started dissing him. It's okay, because Amber Rose came out, Kanye's former lover, and said that, "Kanye, do you remember when I used to put my fingers in your butt?" That's a violation right there. I mean, Kanye West. People like his music. People love his music. I actually like what was that first record? I've already spoken about that. I like his first record. But for you to be involved in like the biggest Twitter beef of the day, and then for Amber Rose to come out and just say, "Yeah, but I used to put my fingers in your butt," it kind of just defeats your whole purpose of life, right? Don't you just sign off after that? Don't you just give up? So, every time you see the word Kanye West, just think about, he likes girls to put fingers in his butt. It's very strange. Okay. So, before we get up on out of here this week, so if you guys tune in to hear me be funny and hear the music headlines, and that's it, that part of the podcast is over. So, you guys could sign off if you like. I'm gonna devalue my coolness right now, and I'm going to get a little lame. But wait. We all lame, right? Is it true? Is it true?
It's true. It's true. We're so lame.
You're damn right, Homer. We are so lame. That's a little, I'm trying to experiment with background music. That's a little bit of Owen Hart's theme song. His first theme song from back in the day. He should be in the Hall of Fame based on his fucking cheesy theme song alone, but they'll never put him in because he died on their watch. But, alright, let's talk about Royal Rumble really fast. I'll get lame. I don't really care. It's an election year. I'll watch wrestling rather than elections. So the Royal Rumble happened this past Sunday, and well, when you're listening to it, it's going to be 2 Sundays ago, but it doesn't matter. It doesn't matter because nobody watches Raw and SmackDown anyway. But, so the Royal Rumble happened, and I'm just going to, Owen Hart's theme music is distracting me. Great pay-per-view overall. Great pay-per-view. I talked about what I thought was going to happen, like, for instance, we had, leading off the night was Dean Ambrose and Kevin Owens in a last man standing match for the Intercontinental title. Now, my thought on that was that Dean Ambrose was going to retain the title, and therefore Kevin Owens would move up into the main event picture. One of those things happened. 1.5 of those things happened. As Ambrose and Owens had a fantastic, about a half-hour last man standing match, which culminated in a spot where Kevin Owens had stacked 2 tables on the floor, and he ended up being pushed through them. Gotta love a multiple table spot. Gold. And then later on, when Owens came out in the Royal Rumble, he literally had to drag himself down the aisle, which was perfect, because that's how you gotta sell your injuries. You have to continue to sell the whole night. Even the next night on Raw, he came out, he was limping again. So Owens puts over Ambrose. Ambrose is still your Intercontinental Champion with no discernible beef to have with anybody for that belt. Moving on, the tag team division is not what it once was. New Day retained because they're funny. The Usos throw more super kicks than the Young Bucks. They're boring. Not as people. I'm sure they're great people. I just don't, they look the same. They do the same things. They're very, very vanilla. And the New Day have nobody to work with in terms of the tag team division. I don't know what happened to the Dudley Boys. The Dudley Boys just fell off. It's not they fell off. They're being booked poorly. They're being booked to put over younger talent, like they were booked in a feud with the Wyatt family. And there's no winners in that. If you're the Wyatts, you beat the Dudleys, legendary tag team. If you're the Dudleys, you beat the Wyatts, you killed all their momentum, and you're like every John Cena beef. Do. So, New Day retain, and I'm really starting to think there needs to be a new tag team put into this division before these tag titles change hands. I don't see anybody that could take the titles off them. There's no other tag team in the WWE universe that anybody cares about. The Lucha Dragons were cool with Kalisto and Sin Cara. Sin Cara's hurt because he's a botchamaniac. Speaking of the Lucha Dragons, the next match was Alberto Del Rio defending his United States Championship against Kalisto. That's right. Alberto Del Rio, a Mexican, defended his United States Championship against Kalisto, another Mexican. Donald Trump almost died. In a match that could have been a lot better, I don't know, Alberto Del Rio's just not doing it for me. I mean, I wasn't watching wrestling when he won the title that year, and I wasn't watching it when he won the 40-man Royal Rumble. But I don't know. He does see, he's got the cross arm breaker. Good. I mean, he's in good shape. He's in good shape, and he's probably making $1 million, but now he doesn't even have the U.S. title because he lost to Kalisto. Kalisto, who they want to turn into the next Rey Mysterio Jr., was going for a sunset flip powerbomb spot and landed on his face, because he's a botchamaniac. So that match went, I think, 12 or 13 minutes or something. Not even. It was rough. And Kalisto wins the U.S. title. Why? I mean, at least Alberto Del Rio was drawing money in Mexico. Alberto Del Rio was in like Lucha Underground and AAA. He was the champion in whatever wherever he was before he came back to WWE. So it doesn't make sense to me that he lost the belt. He lost the U.S. title to Kalisto, and I don't see them having a rematch. That was the rubber match. Now Kalisto faced Neville on SmackDown. That's good, because Neville needs something to do. Again, something else I heard on Solomon's The Sounds Off. I'm not taking credit for it myself. Neville's great, but he's tiny, and he needs something to do. Therefore, put him in with Kalisto. They could have some good matches for the U.S. title. Maybe Neville gets the U.S. title. I don't know. I'm not getting ahead of myself. I'm just saying. Three matches. Yeah, see, here's the thing. With the Rumble, with the World Heavyweight Championship being on the line in the Royal Rumble, that takes away a title match. So we've got a way shorter card here. So we're already at the Divas match, also known as the Piss Break match, which isn't fair to them because Charlotte and Becky Lynch did put on a good match. Oh, man. Flair. Did anybody see Ric Flair? All right. So Ric Flair's daughter, Charlotte, is the Divas champion. I'm gonna continue saying that I hate saying Divas champion. They're women. They're not divas. Divas are on a reality show called Total Divas, and women's wrestling needs to be taken seriously, and it's never going to be taken seriously when you got the stupid little butterfly belt. But anyway, so Ric Flair's been coming out with Charlotte to help her cheat to win because it's part of a heel turn. I mentioned this, I think, last month. The Paige and Charlotte, it was a double turn where they were turning Paige face and Charlotte was turning heel, but they didn't execute it properly. Well, they did it this time. Becky Lynch wanted to face Charlotte. Somebody egged her on to face Charlotte. Charlotte cheated to win. She's like, hey, what the hell? And she's like, what do you mean? I got to win the match. And Charlotte's like, I want a title shot. Becky Lynch is like, I want a title shot. Charlotte's like, okay. Cheated to win. So then goaded her into putting the title up at the Rumble. Okay. So they're having the match. The match makes its way to the outside. Every time the camera goes on Flair, it's woo! Woo! Flair, 66 years old, styling and profiling. He grabs Becky Lynch and he plants a 66-year-old kiss on her. He mouth rapes Becky Lynch. Woo! Styling and profiling. Flair, are you good? What are you doing? This is a PG show. I don't know how mouth rape is PG. I don't know how it is. And I am 100% sure that Ric Flair didn't go up to Becky Lynch before the match and said, this is what I'm going to do. That is something he did. And she played it off. She didn't cry. And so she had her finisher. Becky Lynch had her finisher, the cross arm, the disarmer. It's an arm breaker. It's an arm bar. She had the disarmer on Charlotte, and Flair threw his sports coat on top of Becky Lynch's head, and she sold it because, I don't know, I guess it's 1978 or something, and they're selling sports coats. It didn't affect the finish at all. Anyway, throws off the sports coat, goes to get Flair, gets met with a spear. I don't know if it was a spear or a big boot to the face. Either way, 1, 2, 3, that match is over. Charlotte retains the Divas Championship, which I think she's going to retain until WrestleMania. But right after the match, whose music hit? Sasha Banks, the boss, because she's built on self-success. She came out by herself with no team bad, no factions. There's no they didn't group the females together. They separated them. So she came out to do the fake shake of Charlotte's hand. Charlotte turns it back. She hits her with the bank statement and puts her in that fucking Yeah, she hits it with the bank statement, puts her in the what's her finisher called? I think it's the bank statement. Now I want to look it up because it's bothering. It is the bank statement. She does like a code breaker and then she hits you with this big, like, cross face. And the thing about the chicks is that, I call them chicks, the women who wrestle, their finishing moves, when they put on a submission hold, it looks like it hurts. It's not like, the sharpshooter would. Like, you ever see a Boston Crab being done, or like when Chris Jericho does the Walls of Jericho? Somebody put me in the Walls of Jericho because I need my back stretched out. Let's do an abdominal stretch too. Those things don't hurt. Most of those things look like stretching exercises, but when the women get each other in a hold, that shit, it looks bad. And Charlotte is a gymnast, so she's very flexible. So she was like at a 90-degree angle when Sasha was cranking back on her. So Sasha Banks will probably get a title shot, which should lead up to a WrestleMania women's title match between Charlotte, Sasha Banks, and Becky Lynch, which would make sense because those are the three women that were called up from NXT earlier this year. So you get that out of the way. You don't bring Bayley up yet. Bayley is the NXT Women's Champion. NXT is the developmental training place for WWE. They also have a show on Wednesday nights, NXT. It's awesome. It's on WWE Network. So Bayley is the women's champion in NXT right now. And everyone's talking about putting Bayley up to the main roster, but I wouldn't do that because talent has a place to flourish in NXT. And if you're going to bring them up to the main roster and let Vince McMahon decide if he thinks that they make money or not, I mean, that's just dangerous to do. I mean, look, they called up these three women, I think last year in June, in the summertime, they called them up. And it took them literally 6 months to get them to a storyline that made some sort of sense. It's not a bitches be cray storyline. Like back in the day, not back in the day, but like, 2000s, when you're watching wrestling and before it was PG, like there was a women's title, but the storyline between the women was always boiled down to bitches be cray. Or, fighting over some dude. Or something like that. It was never, like, real. Well, it's never real. It's WWE, but you know what I mean. So, I'm glad to see that the women's wrestling is finally telling a story. The women's wrestling is finally, it has some legitimacy. And let's only hope that sometime around or after WrestleMania, they get rid of the Divas title and bring back the old school WWE Women's Championship. And on to the Royal Rumble match. 1 versus all, which actually wasn't the case. It's 1 versus 1 versus 1, because everybody's against each other and they're not on teams. So it's not 1 versus all. Stop advertising it like that. Roman Reigns was set to defend his WWE title in the Rumble match, entering first, which means he would need to be the last person in the ring at the end of the night, after 30 superstars went in, went out, to retain. Okay, so he starts off the match against Rusev. Him and Rusev are getting into, I'm not going over the whole match, but I'm going to hit where my predictions were. Last week, 2 weeks ago, I made predictions. I said that there were 4 things that were probably going to happen, and 1 thing that I would hope would happen. And what I was hoping was going to happen was some sort of Balor Club, Finn Balor invasion angle with the 4 New Japan guys they signed: Nakamura, Luke Gallows, Carl Anderson, and AJ Styles. Okay, well, all of that did not happen. My 4 sure thing picks were Lesnar, Taker, Reigns to retain, and Triple H was what I said was going to happen. That's what everybody in the world knew, that Triple H was coming out number 30 last Sunday night. I also had an idea that Bray Wyatt should have won the Royal Rumble, but Bray Wyatt's got plans. We'll get into it. So coming out third for the Rumble match, Reigns is in the ring, and an unfamiliar music starts playing. And on the screen, it just says, "I am phenomenal." And then AJ Styles makes his way out to the ring to the biggest pop I've heard in WWE in a while. The crowd went nuts, as well they should have. AJ Styles was in the Royal Rumble, technically signed, and in his first match was competing for the WWE Championship. So AJ Styles gets in that ring. Everybody's hyped that he's in the ring, and everyone's thinking, holy shit, outside chance or not, he might actually have a shot to win this thing. So AJ Styles stays in for about, I want to say 28, 29 minutes. He's actually in until Kevin Owens eliminates him. Kevin Owens, who came in, I think, 17th or 18th. It took him a minute to get down the aisle because he was dragging his leg, selling his injuries from going through 2 tables in a last man standing match. Because if you listen to my predictions last week, I said that both of the guys in the last man standing match shouldn't be in the Royal Rumble because they were just in a last man standing match, and that match will kill you. And it did. And Owens limped out there. And then before eliminating AJ Styles, he told him, "Welcome to WWE," and he eliminated AJ Styles. Then Sami Zayn came out around 19 or 20. Sami Zayn is a former NXT champion. He is not on the main roster. He is in NXT. He just came back from injury recently. Sami Zayn is real life best friends with Kevin Owens. In real life, they've been on the road together for 15 years and work in these small independent promotions, and they finally both made it to WWE together. So Sami Zayn's music hits, Owens has this look on his face, and they get to the, as Kevin Owens said to Sami Zayn a couple of weeks ago, or he said it a couple months ago, in a promo, we just said, "We're destined to do this forever, you and I." Just something like that. It's just like, it's eerie, and it's like, there's some good flavor going on here in wrestling. So Zayn, of course, eliminated Owens to a huge pop from the crowd. And then Zayn got eliminated later on. Zayn's not winning the WWE title. There was no chance. So then the Wyatt, Brock Lesnar was in at like 20 or 21. He was in later than he needed to be. But he came in, and the Wyatt family, Braun Strowman, Luke Harper, and Eric Rowan, were just mauling mofos. They were tossing people out left and right, and they tossed out Kane and the Big Show. Now, Kane and the Big Show are usually like huge factors in the Rumble. They never win, except for in 2000 when Big Show won, even though The Rock kind of won. But Rock's foot hit the ground first, so Big Show technically should have won, but they gave it to The Rock because fans like The Rock better. Usually Kane and Big Show are in the match eliminating mofos left and right for like 15, 20 minutes at a time. Wyatt family just dispatched them. They were building Bill and Braun Strowman to look strong, as he did. And then Brock Lesnar came out and eliminated the entire Wyatt family, all 3 of them, not Bray Wyatt. Bray Wyatt wasn't out there yet. And then when Bray Wyatt came into the match, see, remember, my idea was the Wyatt family eliminates everybody and then steps out of the ring, goes over the top rope, and Bray Wyatt wins the title. They help their leader win the title. It makes sense. Bray Wyatt's got all sorts of momentum going in his direction now. Putting the title on him would be great for business. Well, technically, I don't know how good it would be for business. I haven't looked at the numbers. But, so when Bray Wyatt came out, and the Wyatt family was already eliminated, and Brock Lesnar's in the ring, since there's no DQ, the Wyatt family just came back in the ring and threw Brock Lesnar out. Boom. There you go. That's the end of Brock Lesnar's night. Brock Lesnar unceremoniously dumped from the Royal Rumble, didn't even make the Final Four, and will not be going to the WrestleMania main event. Maybe. So that sets up Brock Lesnar and Bray Wyatt. I don't know if that's the match we're going to get, or if they're going to set up Brock Lesnar for Braun Strowman. See, the thing is, they were grooming Braun Strowman to be an opponent for Undertaker at WrestleMania. They've obviously backed down from that assertion because Braun Strowman can barely walk, let alone wrestle. So I think it was Chris Jericho, Ambrose, and Roman Reigns. Oh, here we go. Midway through the match, Roman Reigns was dragged out of the ring by the League of Nations. They put him through the announce table, and then they carried him to the back. And he wasn't eliminated. He was dragged under the bottom rope, so he wasn't eliminated. And then later on, he came back out and, was feeding a comeback Superman punch. Listen, it's about suspending reality for a little while, okay? I understand that when I watch something that's pretend, that you have to understand that we're going to suspend disbelief for a little while. It's like watching a movie. You see people fly, they're not actually flying, you don't go try to do it. But at the same time, with 2016 and the way everybody's in the know about everything, just like everybody knew AJ Styles signed, everyone thought he was coming. I mean, everybody knows that there's no way that Roman Reigns is actually hurt enough where he would need to go to the back. Now, if you want to have him laid out on the side of the ring for a good 20 minutes, I mean, I'm not saying that that's good, but it'd be better than having him go to the locker room and then he runs out later. First of all, remember didn't I say last week that this is 1999? In the 1999 Royal Rumble, Stone Cold entered first. The corporation dragged him out under the direction of Vince McMahon. They beat the shit out of him. He got taken to the hospital and he drove back in an ambulance and fucking rose hell and then lost to Vince McMahon, the owner of the company. The owner of the company won the Royal Rumble in 1999. It's crazy how somebody in a position of power can win the Royal Rumble in 1999. But we're going to keep going with that theme. All right, so the final four was, what was the actual final? So Sheamus was in there. Roman Reigns was in there. Dean Ambrose was in there. And Chris Jericho had just gotten eliminated. Chris Jericho was in there for a long time, too. I think Chris Jericho wants to let everyone know that he wants to, win a match one of these days. I feel like he hasn't won a match since 2006. But, not 2006, come on. I wasn't watching wrestling in 2006. Then, number 30 is coming up. We all know who it's going to be. Everybody knows it's going to be Triple H. When the music hit, the roof came off that place. Which is odd, because people hate Triple H. Triple H is a heel. But the thing is, and I don't understand what's up with the WWE Universe, I guess we'll call them. People hate Roman Reigns. They boo him, and I don't know why. The guy is not bad in the ring. Yeah, I mean, he smiles too much, and when they put a microphone in his hand, he says stupid things. Not stupid things, but just everything he says seems scripted. It doesn't seem like he's shooting from the hip. It doesn't seem like he's, it's natural to him, which isn't a bad thing. He's a badass. He should be silent assassin, Roman Reigns. He shouldn't be like, I'm having fun with my folks, let's go have some beers and, family, and let's make jokes about tater tots. Let's make fun of Stephanie. I don't think he should be that. I think he should be powerbombing mofos through tables and doing and being a psychopath. Which is why, and again, the fans were already booing him at the beginning of the match. What do you think was going to happen when you let him rest in the back for a half hour? There's no way they were going to take that. He came back, they were booing him out of the building. So Reigns eliminated Sheamus. So now we got Ambrose and Reigns and Triple H, the chief operating officer of the company. Well, actually, you know what? There was Bray Wyatt was like in the final five. Because there was a point where Triple H came in the ring and he was face-to-face with Bray Wyatt, and he would not take a swing at Bray Wyatt, which goes to with the direction they're putting Bray Wyatt. Triple H backs down from nobody, but he didn't back down, but he stared at Wyatt, and then he went in another direction. So we got Ambrose in the corner, doing the leaning on the turnbuckle. He's spent because he retains his Intercontinental title in a last man standing match in the opening match of the night, which, by the way, blew away. That was the match of the night, first night, which is a bad way to plan a pay-per-view, but I guess they wanted to get them both in the Rumble. An interesting point is Triple H eliminates Roman Reigns, not last, second to last. So now at this point, when Roman Reigns goes over the top rope, the place starts buzzing. You can hear the electricity in the crowd. You can feel it because A, we're getting a new champion, and B, out of the two choices that we have in the ring, both of these guys are really over in this building right now. Ambrose and Triple H. Now, if Ambrose would have lost the Intercontinental title earlier in the night, I would have said to myself, wow, Ambrose might win the title right now. And that actually would have been a fantastic way to go. You could have had Ambrose eliminate Triple H, and then Triple H could have been like mad at Ambrose and mad at Reigns, and then they got one over on the Authority, and he could have made Reigns and Ambrose fight. That's actually way better. It's actually way better to do it like that. Should have had Ambrose win the title, and then Triple H, being pissed off, says, all right, you got to fight your friend now. Defend your belt against your best friend. Let's see how long you're family. We'll see how long you're friends. But anyway, after a couple of good false finishes, Triple H eliminated Dean Ambrose and became the 14-time WWE World Heavyweight Champion. And the place went nuts, which is weird. I'm a Triple H fan. I like Triple H, but when other people are cheering him, I know something's wrong. Besides like 6 months in 2002, this guy has never been... Or besides that night he married Stephanie in 99 when he interrupted the Test Stephanie wedding, which is comedy gold. I was watching that on the network the other day. Along with, I was watching a 2-hour Paul Heyman documentary, by the way. So Triple H wins the Rumble. He's the WWE Championship, WWE World Heavyweight Championship. He will be defending it in the main event at WrestleMania against the winner of a match between Dean Ambrose, Roman Reigns, and the Beast Brock Lesnar at Fastlane. Fastlane is the next pay-per-view. It's in between Royal Rumble and WrestleMania. It's on the road to WrestleMania. I'm just going to predict how that match is going to go now because we already mentioned the Wyatt family eliminated Brock Lesnar from the Rumble, setting up their storyline. So what I'm guessing is that in that match somehow, the Wyatt family is going to abduct Brock Lesnar. And they're going to take him, and he is not going to be a factor in the match. And then Dean Ambrose and Roman Reigns are going to have to fight each other, friend versus friend, and we'll see who comes out going to WrestleMania. It's probably going to be Roman Reigns. That's only my assumption because that's the match. Triple H, Roman Reigns. And they're playing a game where the game is keep Lesnar away from the title. It started with The Undertaker at SummerSlam. Was that SummerSlam or was that Battleground? No, it was Battleground. And it's just continuing on. Get him in with the Wyatt family. Listen, Brock Lesnar's part-time. I can't have a part-time guy with the belt. I know Triple H doesn't wrestle every day, but at least he's out there cutting 20-minute promos. And like everyone keeps saying, this is 1999 all over again. Like I said, Vince McMahon won the Royal Rumble in 1999, the chief executive officer of this company. In 2016, the chief operating officer of this company won the Royal Rumble. So, if you work in the office, you might have a title shot coming up. So there's that. AJ Styles the next night on Raw beat Chris Jericho with a roll-up, a distraction roll-up, And on SmackDown, AJ Styles defeated... Who did he defeat? Anyway, AJ Styles looked good in a match that he won. The problem with AJ Styles is a little short. I hope that Vince doesn't notice that. But I think he's legitimate. He could be a legitimate Intercontinental title contender immediately. He is probably the best wrestler in the world right now. I know that's a dirty word in WWE. But there's that. So that's me being lame. That was a long time. Rumble's a long match. I don't really care, you know? I'm not watching Iowa caucuses. I'm not watching fucking Heroin Island. I'm not doing any of that. I'm going to have fun. I'm going to enjoy myself when I'm not at work. Sorry. And speaking of the road to WrestleMania, before I get up on out of here. The Monday before WrestleMania, Monday Night Raw is coming to the Barclays Center in Brooklyn. And I'm in the fucking building. I will be there. Section 200, row 9. I've never been to a WWE event. The go-home show to WrestleMania. I'm going to be there. Sounds pretty cool. It's like a month before Ween, too, so it'll get me out. It'll get me into that going out to events mode that I'm hopefully going to be in most of the summertime. Okay. Before I get up on out of here, let me give you the list of websites you need to go to help keep me in business. ConcertConfessions.com is where you're going to get all your live music news and reviews. For the fans, by the fans. Like I said, I got Ween coming up. We got tons of stuff that's going to be coming to you. And if you want to join the Concert Confessions family, you can just find me on the internet and ask me how. I will definitely fill you in on everything you need to do in order to do that. ChristinaRocks.com, Hang the DJ, 89xradio.com every Sunday morning. I was just listening because I'm recording this on Sunday morning. I was just listening to her, the sultry tones of Christina Rocks. And you can get her at Christina Rocks on Twitter. Christina is with no H. And tell her she's the coolest cucumber in the salad because you know she is, and I don't lie. Have I ever told a lie? Also, AndyDarrer.com is headquarters. That's where you get all your Darrer Network podcasting needs, whether that's the Tyler Kale Show, whether that's Spin Class with Tyler and Andy, whether that's Jesse Unplugged, whether that's the flagship show, the Andy Darrer Show, or the smooth, sultry tones of the J Porks podcast. You get that right there at AndyDarrer.com. JPorks.com is where you get the notes every week, every time there's a podcast. I'm having trouble with the embedding the player from archive, so I've been putting it up on YouTube. People ask me why I'm doing that, just so I can embed the player. That's the only thing I want to do. I don't really care where you listen to it as long as you listen to it. Get us on the iTunes podcast app. Also, every week, the headlines, they be powered by Annie Quiet. Until next week, folks. Snow Bunnies, Wacky Weed, Warren Zevon. Late.
This has been the J Porks Experience. Thank you so much for listening.